Oh, hello. Can we please talk about UFC Vegas 44, which incidentally is taking place tonight? I can only humbly apologise. I thought that Font versus Aldo was the week after Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. Turns out it's not. It's the week before, which puts it in about 13 hours time. So I better get some picks in. So if you're new to this, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for coming back. Basically, all I do is I go through the card. There are some really good fights on this card, by the way, guys. Just FYI, there are going to be some fireworks on this fight card. I'm not going to go through all the fights, but what I like to do is I like to pick three or four fights that I think are, number one, going to be very, very good fights to watch, and number two, offer a little bit of value on some of the bets that can be placed on them. Now, the value bets, they're not really wise picks, Joan. If you want to bet on something that's going to come off, bet on the shortest odds. Like most of the time, that's more or less what's going to happen. But what I like to do is I like to look at some odds where there is some value. You know, where you're looking at the methods and looking at different fight styles, maybe trying to find something that the bookies have missed, which is rare. That's very rare, I might add. The bookies are fucking good at what they do. If you want to make money from gambling, you're an idiot, and that's why these are terrible bets. And yeah, without further ado, let's have a look at the Burt Locker fights in 15 for UFC Vegas 44. So, we are going to start in the light heavyweight division. And this one, I did not know it was happening, but I mean, I'm glad it is. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, it's Alonzo Menifield. And they've only put him up against William Knight. That's a crazy good fight. Like, when you look at the styles of these two guys, right, this is super interesting. Both of them are big guys with good power, right? I would say that William Knight definitely has the edge in power, because when you just look at the size of the guy, like his legs are like tree trunks, right? I just rewatched the fight where he flatlined Fabio Charant in round number one. Little side note, obviously, Alonzo Menifield also beat Fabio Charant. They've got that opponent in common. He submitted him with a Von Flute choke, or like the OSP choke, whatever you want to call it. The one where, you know, you kind of use your shoulder and choke their asses out. But yeah, I mean, what was really impressive about it was that he caught Charant. They both threw at the same time, but even though Knight was going backwards, his punch landed with so much power that he just flatlined him. And there is a real power to everything that Knight does. Like his leg kicks, his low kicks were really, really, they were just hard and nasty. And yeah, and there was a body kick as well, which landed really nicely. I don't know if Alonzo Menifield's a southpaw, he's in trouble. But either way, this one's going to be a fun one, because Menifield is no slouch himself. Menifield is someone that I've had my eye on for a long time. He's very impressive. 11 wins with 8 knockouts, and then you've got Knight, who has 10 wins with 9 knockouts. This is going to be a fun fight. Like, on paper, like it's got all of the right criteria. And I think that whilst Menifield, he is going to have the size, he's going to have the height, and he's going to have the reach. However, I would say that like Charant had height and reach over Knight as well, but that went horribly because Knight has a really great equaliser. Those leg kicks, right? He throws these leg kicks with so much goddamn power, it's kind of ridiculous. And they snap as well. He's surprisingly quick for how big he is, because he is a fucking unit, right? He is a unit, and he's surprisingly quick. And like I said, it's just that power differential that I think is going to get him. I think, because I'm leaning towards Knight in this one. Don't get me wrong. This is a pick 'em fight, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got Knight coming in as a slight underdog, and that's because Menifield is so good. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Menifield. I'm not saying I'll be shocked if Menifield wins this fight by knockout, or any other means by that matter. But what I am going to go with, I'm going with the knockout for Knight, because I just think that there was so much power. There was so much power in that shot that he caught Charant with, and he's walking backwards, and it's everything he threw just had a ridiculous amount of power in it. Don't get me wrong, Menifield has got power, right? But Knight has that kind of preposterous power, that kind of like whoa, like stand up and take notice kind of power. And for that reason, I think Alonzo Menifield is going to be taking a nap, and you're getting plus 350 on the knockout for William Knight, and that's a terrible bet, but it's what I'm going with. That's going on the accumulator. So that's my thoughts on the Alonzo Menifield William Knight. Just a little side note: if you want to catch my thoughts on the main event, that goes up onto my Patreon, which is just up here. Go and check it out. It's exclusive. You get extra content. It's a good time. We have fun, and yeah. So go and check it out if you want to see my thoughts on the main event between Rob Font and Jose Aldo. But moving on swiftly to another 205-pound fight, another light heavyweight fight. Now this one's really interesting as well. Jimmy Crute versus Jamal Hill. Wow. Okay. I mean, this one interests me, and it should interest you too. If you're a fight fan, like, we've got a few really interesting fights on this card. Now, Crute is seriously impressive, man. I mean, just the fact that he has a Kimura win over Paul Craig is crazy. I mean, Paul Craig is such a high-level grappler, and that's something that I think is a slight caveat on what I think is going to happen here, because I do think that if Crute wants to win this fight against Jamal Hill, I do think he might have to ground him, and he could, because Crute has got, I think he's got like 4 submissions, and he's very good. He's a very well-rounded fighter. His definition of well-rounded, I think he's got like 5 knockouts, like a couple of decisions, and 4 submissions. As I said, I don't know what his actual record is. I haven't got it in front of me. I've only got my notes. I didn't take notes on that, so it is what it is. But yeah, so Crute, whilst he's looked really impressive, I do think that Jamal Hill, he's coming in as a slight underdog here, which I do get it, but also you've just got to look at how Jamal Hill fights, because I think the reason he's coming as an underdog is he did lose to Paul Craig, which is fair. Like, Paul Craig got him in a triangle slash kind of armbar and dislocated his elbow, and then elbowed him until the red. So it went down as a TKO, which annoyed me, because I had a bet on Paul Craig by submission in that one. And so the fact it went down as a TKO, I was fucking livid. Because the reason that fight got stopped, let's be fair, was because of the broken arm. And that came as a result of the fucking triangle. So fuck you. I want my money. I want my goddamn money. I've got good odds on that as well. Because Jamal Hill was coming in as such a favourite. Pissed off, man. So that's brought back some really, really bitter memories. But anyway, moving on to this fight. I like Jamal Hill's chances here, because, like, don't forget, he also need a brow, right? Need him into oblivion and put him away, and that one got overturned because he tested positive for weed, which is bullshit. Now, the reason I think that Jamal Hill comes in as a slight underdog here is because you look at Crute's last fight. His last fight was against Anthony Smith. Now, what he struggled with there was the jab. Because, okay, right, the fight got stopped because of damage to the leg, and I understand that that's why the fight got finished. But when you watch that fight, it was the jab that was lighting Crute the fuck up. It was lighting him up. And Anthony Smith had a smaller reach advantage than Jamal Hill is going to enjoy. I think Jamal Hill offers the same problems that Anthony Smith offered Jimmy Crute, only slightly worse. I feel like Jamal Hill, there's a little bit more danger there, if I'm totally honest. He's so fast, but also very deceptively powerful. His power is really kind of deceptive. Like, you watch how he was hitting Ovince St. Preux. Ovince St. Preux started getting hit by him, and he was like, "Oh my god, that sucks. That's horrible." That he's got that kind of power where it's like you don't think he's going to hit as hard as he does, and then he cracks you, and there's a kind of visceral sound that goes with it that's just ugh. And yeah, I think that Crute honestly is in a little bit of trouble here, because look, Jimmy Crute, he's going to have to try and close the distance, because I think that because Jamal Hill throws that jab really, really well. There's no wind up on it. It's quick. It snaps it out there, and he keeps his opponents at range. He dictates the range. That's what Jamal Hill's very good at doing. Now, Jimmy Crute is going to have to try and mitigate that by getting inside. That's how he's going to have to try and avoid that jab. He would do well to try and take out Jamal Hill's legs. Jamal Hill, he doesn't have the thickest legs in the world. Maybe there's an opening there. I think that in order to close the distance, Jimmy Crute, he's going to have to try and chop down the leg, maybe with a few calf kicks here or there. Maybe like try and use the thing that ended his fight for himself in his last outing, and try and turn that around. And because if he's try and close the distance with like hooks and uppercuts, it's kind of like pick your poison. As soon as he closes the distance, then Jamal Hill's going to start throwing those knees up the middle, and he's going to start eating some knees to the gut, and that's going to really hurt. And then Jamal Hill will start hitting him with some board bombs, and that's how I see this one kind of going, if I'm totally honest. Now, on a side note, Darko Stosic, he did take Jamal Hill down 6 times in their fight. Now, Crute is an elite level submission guy. You don't submit Paul Craig if you're not an elite level submission guy. And don't forget that really, I thought it was a submission that Paul Craig got on Jamal Hill. I get it. Like, you know, he finished him with elbows because the arm was broken, but it was because the arm was broken in submission that really ended the fight. And that was, and don't forget that Jimmy Crute beat Paul Craig. I know that's not how MMA math works, but they do have an opponent in common, and one beat them and one didn't. So, I don't think... Thing is I think that, look, if Crute's going to win this fight, it's going to be a submission. And you've got that at plus 350 there. So look, that's well worth a bet in my eyes, honestly. It's not me personally, that's not what I'm betting on. But, you know, that's a decent enough bet because, look, the openings are going to clearly be there, and Crute is very good at submissions. I think that Jamal Hill coming as an underdog here is a good bet in and of itself, you know. 250, you're getting better than even money just on Jamal Hill to win. And honestly, I think this is a bad stylistic matchup for Jimmy Crute. I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Crute, and you know what, he's got the Resident Evil tattoo, I love that shit, and he's just a game fighter. He's very, very good. His skill level is off the charts. However, I feel like stylistically, this is not a good fight for him, because the problem is, Jamal Hill is deceptively powerful for the speed that he throws his strikes at. He's going to be enjoying a 79-inch reach advantage. Not 79-inch reach advantage, sorry. He's going to be enjoying 79 inches of reach to Jimmy Crute's 74, right? And that's a bigger differential than between Smith and Jimmy Crute. And the problem is, against Smith, Jimmy Crute, whilst it was the leg kicks that ended the fight, it was the jab that was really piecing Jimmy Crute up. And honestly, the jab is one of Jamal Hill's best weapons. He throws it so well. There's no wind up. He just cracks people with it. And I feel like that's what's going to happen here. I feel like it's going to be jabs until Jimmy Crute just misses enough of a step and he's going to go down. I feel like this is going to be Jamal Hill to get the knockout / TKO. That is 3.50, and that is what I'm going with on this one. And yeah, so just like I said, these ones, I am putting my thoughts on the main event up. That's going to be on the Patreon. If you go and check it out on here. So Rob Font versus Jose Aldo, I'm going to be looking at just on the Patreon. So head on over to there, because like I said, you get exclusive early access to picks and extra content, all kinds of good stuff, and it's an absolute bargain. So if you want to support the podcast, please do go head on over there. It'd be greatly appreciated. So let's move on to Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. Again, £135. Now, you know, if you've watched this before, you know I'm a huge fan of Rafael Fiziev. He's just kind of ridiculously good. Now, don't get me wrong, this one's a pick and fight and very close on paper. Obviously, you know, we saw the fight against Bobby Green recently for Rafael Fiziev. That was just a stand-up war, and it went to a decision. It was a close fight, but we've now seen how good Bobby Green is, where he just starched raging Al Iaquinta. You know what I mean? So look, I think Fiziev has the slight edge in striking, honestly. I think I'll give him the edge in striking over just about anybody. And if Riddell wants to take this down, he's got his work cut out for him, because Fiziev actually has 100% takedown defense, which is absolutely crazy. But by the same token, you know, Fiziev very rarely engages in grappling competitions, so that's why he's gonna, you know, he's going to have that stat, and he is difficult to take down. What Fiziev can do with his body is ridiculous. It's just his balance and the way that he can move out of the way of things is absolutely insane. Now, Fiziev has lost once by knockout, and that was a spinning back kick by Magomed Mustafayev. Mustafayev? Yeah. And who incidentally did beat Riddell in a split decision. But I don't think that necessarily constitutes a kind of compromised chin, because it was the shot to the body that opened up the TKO really for him. Now, Riddell has also never lost by knockout or TKO. So, in this fight, the safest bet is 2.88 on the decision. That is a no-brainer, right? If you want to bet safe, if you want to bet on a result that's probably going to happen, take Fiziev by decision. Now, I see that both of these guys, they win 50% or more of their fights by knockout. So, which makes it a coin toss for me, because one of these two is winning this fight. One of these two men is going to win this fight, unless it's a draw, which is very rare. I'm not going to discount that. That's like betting on zeros in roulette. I'm not doing that. Anyway. Yeah, so better than 50% of the time, when these two win, they win by knockout. So one of these two is winning. So I am going to go with the higher odds because you're getting 4.33. Rafael Fiziev to win by knockout, 4.33. I think we're going to see something quite spectacular. The only reason I'm going with Fiziev is because I do feel like he has a slight edge in the striking. I'm not discounting Brad Riddell at all. He's so good. Riddell is so good. I would not be surprised to see Riddell get the fight to the ground and get some ground and pound going. But I am putting my money on Rafael Fiziev, 4.33 to get the knockout. And that one is going on the bet slip. And just, to see what I think about the main event between Rob Font and Jose Aldo, please head over to the Patreon. Details are just up here. The Burt Locker on Patreon, basically, you get loads of extra content, early access to picks, all that kind of good stuff. Like loads of content on there, and it's a really good time. And it's a really great way to support what I'm doing here, just because I want to try and, keep progressing. I want to keep moving forward like a shark. I don't want to die, Well, no one wants it. But either way, head on over if you want to support the podcast. Anyway, thank you very much. So, hello. Right, welcome to the... thank you for coming to the Patreon if you've joined me over here. So, Rob Font versus Jose Aldo is the main event for UFC Vegas 44. So this is now obviously like an exclusive to the Patreon. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your support. So let's get into this fight then. So this is a really interesting one. Again, I thought this one was going to be the fight after Poirier versus Oliveira. I must have got my dates mixed up, but yeah, either way. Now, Rob Font is coming in as a slight favourite here. And I think that's probably rightly so, because look, Font, he looked outstanding against, remember a year ago against Marlon Moraes? Like, he looked absolutely outstanding. Just the power he has in those hands. It was surprising to me that he didn't actually put Cody Garbrandt away. Because they went 5 rounds, don't forget. And that was a 5-round war as well, but it was a war that Rob Font clearly got the better of. Now, Jose Aldo, he's somewhat had a little bit of a revival, hasn't he? Because he beat Chito Vera, and then he beat Pedro Munoz, right? Now, Munoz versus Aldo, the thing is like, look at that. He had a reach advantage in that one. I don't think he has the reach in this one. I think the reach is very, very close, to be fair. And that enabled him to kind of bully Munoz a little bit. But one thing that I would note is that when Aldo used to win a lot of his fights, it was because of the leg kicks. He doesn't seem to throw them that much anymore. He seems to have changed his style to a much more boxing-heavy style, and that's where he started to kind of almost become unstuck. Now, Rob Font, he's got some excellent leg kicks of his own. It wouldn't surprise me to see Rob Font kind of going low to take some of that footwork away from Jose Aldo. I think it would probably be so, because you fight fire with fire, don't you? And the same thing for Aldo. I don't know why he doesn't go with the leg kicks a little bit more heavily later on in his career. Maybe he's had a few injuries or something, because it is noticeable. And people pick up on it every single time he fights. They're like, where are the leg kicks that used to win him like most of his fights? It seems kind of crazy. Now, the thing is like when you look at the fight between Font and Marlon Moraes, you've got to take into account that Moraes was coming off that big knockout loss to Sandhagen, like the big spinning wheel kick, which is why I think Moraes, he did look a little bit tentative in there. I think that put a bit of a scaring into him, and that allowed Font to kind of take advantage, maybe. Now, it's possible. The other thing that I noticed, in that fight was that Marlon Moraes did take Rob Font down relatively easily. Now, Jose Aldo, he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as far as I mean, he's from Brazil, so they all have black belts over there, don't they? And yeah, so I just feel like he's probably, if he could take this fight down, that might give him a slight advantage. And Rob Font did get taken down twice by Marlon Moraes, so it's not like it can't be done. I think that it would be interesting to see Jose Aldo maybe mix in a couple of takedowns, even if it was just to show that he is willing to go there. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But either way, I don't know. I want to see Aldo go on this kind of revival tour. I want to see him win. But honestly, Rob Font is a bit good. He is a bit good. I think that he's just got some power in his hands. That you see how he cracked Marlon Moraes. It was ridiculous. And like I said, I was quite shocked that Cody Garbrandt managed to get to the end of their fight. And that's another thing. This one is a 5-rounder, don't forget. Now, the last time that Jose Aldo won a decision over 5 rounds was 2016 against Frankie Edgar. Like, the rest of his fights have either been him losing like a 5-rounder or him winning a 3-rounder. So he's far better these days over 3 rounds. This one is not over 3 rounds. This one is a 5-round main event. So I think that actually gives Rob Font an advantage because Jose Aldo is 35 now. That's getting older for these low, for 135 pounds. That is getting there, you know, because the first thing to, like, the older weight classes tend to go older because the last thing to go is the power, right? The first thing to go is your speed and your reactions, and that is what Jose Aldo relies on. Now, Rob Font, he is a killer. And this is a problem, like putting Aldo in against Munoz, there were ways for Aldo to win that fight. Again, against Chito Vera, with respect. Like, I think that Chito kind of respected Aldo a little bit too much, and that was what kind of led to him getting outstruck. I don't think that Rob Font is going to fall into that trap. I really don't. I think that Rob Font is most likely going to find a knockout against Jose Aldo over 5 rounds. Because the thing is, but you watch when Rob Font, you go back through his catalogue, when Rob Font smells blood, he goes in like a shark. He is a finisher. He will and he has got some power in his hands. For a 135 pounder, he has got some ridiculous power in his hands. You see there is a difference, a clear difference in when he hits people and when other people hit people. You saw it in the Garbrandt fight, I thought. Everything that Font hit with just seemed like it was like, ooh, that hurt. And Moraes, as soon as he tasted like Font's power, Moraes kind of crumbled. And Moraes is a good striker. He's been striking, like, you know, he's been doing Muay Thai since he was a kid. He's tasted power before, but it seemed like the power there kind of surprised him, and so I think that is where this one goes. I've got Rob Font by knockout or TKO, and that is plus 350, right? So obviously I'm putting all of my bets together onto one bet slip, and I've got 4 picks and 4 knockouts here, which is wishful thinking, to say the least. So I am going with William Knight by knockout, Jamal Hill by knockout, Rafael Fiziev by knockout. I'm going for Rob Font by knockout. All knockouts / TKOs, that is 185.79. That is an absolutely terrible bet. That is optimistic as fuck, but it's worth putting a quid on. Like I always say, look, keep those stakes low, keep those odds long, and keep those bets terrible. I'll be wrapping these up next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, so I will see you next time.